Hey everyone, it's your boy Progress, and welcome to a brand new video. I want to start this video off with a relatively difficult question that I'm hoping that many of you will attempt to answer by the end of this. At what point is art owned, and to what extent should an individual or company be allowed to own the different aspects that make up the content created? I want you guys to hold on to this though until the end of the video, like I mentioned, and I hope that you think abstractly about this concept rather than just in a literal sense. Obviously, because I am a channel that has done some videos critiquing the business practices done by record labels and people within the music industry, just a few times. I want to bring up some recent examples of things that have happened that is the reason why I have started thinking about the question that I posed at the beginning of this video. A more modern challenge like this was actually brought up when in more recent times, like how the rapper Juice WRLD was sued by the artist Sting because Nick Mira, who produced Juice WRLD's song called Lucid Dreams, interpolated a guitar segment from Sting's song titled Shape of My Heart, which ended up with Sting getting to own 85% of Juice WRLD's earnings from that song, costing him millions of dollars. Now, is this fair in the slightest? I don't think so. The art is completely different, and I don't think that Sting should have the right to 85% of a song's earnings just because a loop that is used in the background of one of his songs is also used as a background element to a completely different song. Not only that, but I don't think that Sting deserves to own every single tiny aspect from every single instrument that is played within all of his songs, especially when they've been broken away from each other and used in new ways. Of course, many may think as well that this outcome from the lawsuit being in Sting's favor could have been from the judges just not being all that knowledgeable when it comes to how producing works. Because let's be honest, most of the people who are working in law probably aren't spending all of their time trying to learn how to be producers. But the problem is that if we allow things like this to continue to happen, I think we're gonna see in the future a lot more cases come up between different songs because we're gonna start to run out of things that can be completely considered original. Now, don't get me wrong here. I am not arguing at all that Sting does not deserve to own his song or that he does not own his song as a whole. But what type of system is in place where somebody can essentially rob another artist of their hard-earned money just simply because they included, remixed, or redefined a single aspect of a different song? A broken system. That's what kind it would be. And looking back on the case with Juice WRLD and Sting, you could probably also find people arguing saying, well, maybe Juice WRLD should have just got the sample cleared, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, it's essentially very misleading, because in reality, most people think of a sample, they're like, oh, a small little thing that is free, or something that I get to try out, whereas no. In music, sampling refers to taking a small portion from an already existing piece of media and editing it in many different ways to essentially make a new meaning out of that piece for an original song. However, to be able to do this, you often have to get permission from the original copyright holder of the original song, and that can be a very difficult process that often has a large price tag attached to it.
$5,000? Jeez. Well, I guess I don't have to pay for 6 months worth of rent, because, on this USB, I actually was able to afford then the sample that I wanted to get, and then now I'll be able to make a hit song, and hopefully it'll make even more money. But then they're also gonna take money from the song I make, too. Well, looks like I'm eating nothing but bread for a year.
Another unfortunate example of somebody trying to abuse the current system that is in place is actually from the band Yellowcard trying to sue Juice WRLD over the same song, Lucid Dreams, but for a different reason. They claim that the melody that is used in Juice WRLD's Lucid Dreams is the same melody that they used previously in their song titled Hollywood Died. Even though, as shown by another YouTuber named Piano FLPs, the notes in which the melodies are performed in aren't even the same, and that's aside from the fact that when you make the notes the same and overlap the melodies, they still don't match up. Hey guys, editing progress here, and I just quickly wanted to add this into the video because, well, right in the middle of editing it, the New York Times has now dropped an article that claims that Yellowcard quietly drops copyright suit against Juice WRLD. And this came as a pretty big surprise because anybody who's been following the case would know that they essentially have tried like every way possible to not have to drop it. Even there's like a whole bunch of stuff where even after they knew he passed away, they didn't want to drop it, but apparently now they're claiming they're gonna drop it. But when you actually read the article, it seems a little sketchy, and I'm gonna explain why just quickly, which is, first of all, that they had basically marked it up to the reasoning why it changed now all of a sudden that they're gonna be doing this, dropping the case, is because Juice WRLD's side noted that his estate had appointed his mother, and basically they claimed that they didn't want to have the 4 band members of Yellowcard against a woman who just recently lost her 21-year-old son. Which, I mean, yeah, that makes sense, but also, shouldn't it just be in general they had no case? Like, I don't understand why it had to get to this point of it being his mother trying to defend his, like, stuff, basically, that it took this to happen. But also, the guy who is representing them, the lawyer who is representing Yellowcard, saying that it is, like, possible that if they wanted to, they can reopen the case at any time. He literally said it can be refiled. So, even though the case is dismissed, it still can go back into action whenever they feel like it, so they could just wait until, oh, they think his mother is past her grieving, and then immediately, like, just start the lawsuit up again because they think they deserve anything, even though they literally don't. But like I said, just wanted to add this in there. But even if Lucid Dreams and Hollywood Died had the same flow, should a melody or flow, as most people know it as, be something that is allowed to be owned? I don't think so. The argument over copywriting different aspects within a song, as I've already mentioned, to me is just a murky gray area as it is, so it should come as no surprise that I find the concept of copywriting flows absolutely ridiculous. If different keys being played to make up a chord isn't something that should be copyrightable, then neither should somebody just deciding to use words in a certain pattern. Like, maybe there could be some exceptions to that, such as if a person were to just rip the entire song's lyrics as well as use the exact same flow, because then that's just stealing all the aspects that make up the main part of the song. But if it's just a flow from one part of a song and the rhyme scheme and words in it are completely different from one another, then I don't see it as a problem. Now, I understand. At this point, there are probably a ton of people in the comments trying to answer the question I posed at the beginning before even listening to everything that I've got to say. And I'm sure that a few of those comments are gonna end up referencing saying that, oh, well, the governments of the world have tried to attempt, you know, to answer this question that you've posed through a system known as copyright. And you know what I think about the current state of that system? I think I need a visual representation.
Listen to it! Listen to it!
In simple terms, copyright refers to a person who created an original work and others that they approve of are given a copyright license, which essentially gives exclusive rights to recreate or copy a piece of work in fields that are literary, artistic, educational, or musical. But when it comes to trying to apply the copyright system to art, I think it has shown it has failed in many ways. I really do believe that you should be able to create whatever you want with absolutely no restrictions, or at least have a system in place that works fairly towards everyone within it. That way you actually allow everybody to have an equal shot at using the system. Otherwise, it's not fair, and clearly you're just kind of making up rules for different types of people. If you want a good example of how the system is broken and only favors people in power, I mean, just look no further than Drake. He has sampled from things and gotten sued over it, but nothing ends up happening, or he just gets the case dropped against him. So it's not really fair when you look at somebody like Juice WRLD, who is much smaller. He clearly did not have as good of an outcome as Drake does. And that's the sad thing, is that the system realistically at this point only helps itself and the people who are within it that benefit it. Because if you don't realistically have any major people trying to back you up, whether it's financially or just with their status, then it's going to be nearly impossible for you to be able to secure any form of samples whatsoever without having to fork over over a pretty big chunk of change. Like, even companies that have attempted to make an alternative method to how you obtain samples really haven't saved anything here, because they realistically are still charging you over $1,000 for some of these samples, as well as you still get a revenue share taken away from you from the original person, and on top of that, they add an extra fee of you have to pay to use their services in the first place, so it doesn't help. Also, why are they acting like on their site that it's exclusive content to have access to Mozart's samples? Mozart's music is literally in the public domain. I am not kidding. This is not a feature of your site. Mozart can be used by anyone, copied outright in full for free. That's not how this... What is happening? Personally, I think it should be an either-or system. Either you have to give just a one-time license fee that they just take in immediately so that you can use the song, or you can go the route of giving them a shared amount of revenue off of the song that you end up putting out using the sample. But of course, then that wouldn't make the labels money, and that means the labels aren't happy, so of course, it'll never change. Overall though, I think that people often forget that hip-hop was kinda born out of the idea of repurposing other things and making them into new things with a fun, different sound. I mean, come on, look at any song that you enjoy in rap or hip-hop, whether it's from back in the day or was made just yesterday, and I can assure you, almost every single one of them contains a sample of some kind. So then that raises the question, why has this process become so difficult? If sampling is one of the key elements to this genre, then why is it that it has been made so inaccessible and put behind a paywall, and you have to have this, and you have to have that, and you have to fork over all this money to be able to do it, if this is like literally what it's made out of? When it comes to really good examples in the real world of why sampling is so important, I would say then look no further than The Chronic by Dr. Dre from 1992. Now, if you're somebody who is against sampling, or you think that sampling isn't actually that big of a problem, then oh boy, would you absolutely hate to look at what this album has to offer. With only 16 songs in total on the album, it utilized 47 samples combined, and on top of that, the cover art is meant to mimic the packaging of zigzag rolling papers, which is why the album as a whole is a perfect presentation of exactly why the concept of utilizing old things and making them new in your own way can be done in such a magnificent way. But imagine if an independent artist tried to make what Dr. Dre did back then, now. It's basically impossible. I don't have an end-all be-all answer to how all of this could possibly be fixed. But two things are for sure certain. The first one is that the copyright system in regards to music specifically is extremely broken and has needed reform for decades now, because it only favors people in the system that have a ton of money and a ton of power, which of course is a massive slap in the face to anybody who knows what the hip-hop movement was actually born out of. And the second thing being that Yellowcard is an absolute joke of a band, especially after they decided to continue the lawsuit on Juice WRLD even after he passed, knowing that they have no case. Now though that we have reached the end of this video, I once again want to pose the question that I asked at the beginning of this. At what point is art owned, and to what extent should an individual or company be allowed to own the different aspects that make up that creation? I would absolutely love to hear what you guys think the answer to that question is in the comments down below. But anyway, that's gonna have to do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more content that's like this in the future. Thank you obviously for watching, and a huge thank you to all of my patrons this month. You guys are so awesome for supporting me like this. And of course, a super special awesome thank you to the $10 and up patrons this month, those being Farsky, Midwest Funky, Helen, Karma, Chad Sunshine, Keo, and Seaman Punk. You guys are absolutely amazing, and just thank you so much for deciding to support me in this way, because it really does help me a lot. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, it should be art over algorithm. Goodbye.
I've come a long way, like a traveler in the night. I was working in the dark and now everything's bright. Always told that I was wrong, now I'm feeling pretty right. Pushing open closed curtains, now there's people in my life. They told me I wouldn't be shit. I prove them wrong. I'll never have seen them again.